Hello everyone, my name is Christina. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video I'm going to be sharing some of my favourites from the month of June, including a book, a podcast, an article and something that I bought recently. So the first thing is a book called The Power of Now. In terms of what the book is about, it's essentially about the importance of living your life in the present moment. Something really interesting that I found out was when we think about the past and when we think about the future, we're actually borrowing time from the now. The present moment, the now, is the only real time that we have, so we really need to treasure it and make the most of it. When we think about the past, we're essentially thinking about something that we cannot change, and when we think about the future, we're thinking about something that's completely out of reach. So the importance of this book is essentially just to focus on the now. I also love how this book emphasizes the importance of positive thinking. Eckhart Tolle, the author of this book, really goes into detail about the power of our minds and the power of our thoughts as well. And it's just such a thought-provoking book. I've literally not read a book that goes into so much detail in terms of like the human condition and how we think and our thoughts. It's super intense. So if you're not used to that kind of thing, then I wouldn't really recommend it for you. But if anxiety and overthinking is something you want to work on, then this is definitely the book for you. If you're also really into like spirituality and mindfulness and just, I don't know, like thoughts and mindset, then I think this book would be good for you guys as well. So my favorite quote from this book was actually, "The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it." And I just love this because it kind of is true. A bunch of things can happen to us, but if we remain positive, then it can't really affect us. So the next thing is my favorite podcast this month, and that is Boys Get Sad Too. This is a podcast, it's hosted by three guys all from London. They come from different backgrounds and they just pretty much talk about life, relationships, and just what it means to be a man in the 21st century. And I don't know if I'm the target demographic for this podcast, but it's honestly so interesting to listen to. Some of my favorite episodes from this podcast are Chivalry is Sexist, Right? Distance Kills Relationships, Can Stereotypes Be Useful? Success Isn't Worth It, and Should Couples Tell Each Other Everything? It's honestly so insightful. I've learned so much listening to these three gentlemen talk about just literally everything under the sun, and they're super funny as well. I find myself like laughing out loud to their podcast sometimes. So I highly recommend anyone to check them out, guy or girl or anyone. They are just super interesting and funny as well. So my favorite article this month is actually one that's called How to Practice Self-Care. And I've been seeing the word self-care, especially obviously during lockdown and quarantine. I've been seeing the word or the phrase self-care pop up quite a lot, and I've noticed that it always tends to be surrounding things that are very like surface level. So, take time out for yourself, stay hydrated, stuff that's just not of substance. And I've noticed all the activities surrounding self-care tend to be quite surface level. So things like, watch a movie, catch up with friends. It's quite nice that we're encouraging people to like treat themselves and look after themselves, but for me it's very surface level. I'm someone who really likes the psychology and philosophy behind things. So when I read this article, it really opened my eyes. It talks about how real self-care is actually self-knowledge and positive self-talk, which I think just makes so much sense. If you really want to look after yourself, you have to have an idea of who you are as a person. That way you know what you can work on. And positive self-talk goes hand in hand with that, because it means that, similar to what I mentioned about the power of now, all the situations that happen to you, you're not letting them dictate your life. It's your thoughts and your control over your thoughts that then determine, your life path. So I really like this article. It's very in-depth. It's very like psychology heavy. So if that's your kind of thing, then I'll link it down below so you can have a read of it. But yeah, that was my favorite article this month. Also, something that I loved from this article was it talked about how self-care is essentially just understanding what energizes us and what replenishes our energy. So for everyone, this is going to be different. If you think about extroverts versus introverts, what energizes an extrovert, that's probably things like going out, watching a movie, being in a big crowd. Whereas for introverts, that's more staying at home, reading a book, just keeping to themselves. But in general, what energizes different people is different things. So I love that it talks about, you can't just kind of say, you can't have a blanket list of self-care things that will work for everyone. What energizes you might be different to what energizes me. And yeah, it just talked about having self-knowledge, understanding what energizes us. So yeah, it was just such an interesting article. I learned so much. And the last thing that I've been loving this month is my Kindle. So I actually bought this earlier on, I think towards the end of May, start of June, and I bought it because I wanted to start reading more books. Also because Ali Abdaal always talks about if you want to read more books, get a Kindle. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to get a Kindle, and I've actually been loving it. So every night before I go to bed, I'll tend to read for like 10-30 minutes, sometimes longer if I'm reading a really good book. And yeah, it's just helped me to wind down on the evening. And also sometimes if I'm studying, then I'll find that if I want to just take a quick break that's quite productive for 5 minutes, I'll like read a few pages of one of my books. And yeah, I've been loving it this month. It's definitely helped me to read a lot more. Let me know in the comments of any book or podcast or article recommendations. I'm always on the lookout for new things to read and listen to. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.